Hello everyone. Today, I'll continue sharing the story of the single mother, Diệu Hân. I hope you enjoy the video. For the past few days, ever since news spread that storm number 13 Kalmiji was heading toward the coast, everyone has been filled with worry. People in the village hurried to reinforce their houses, gather their crops, and store the most important belongings. The loudspeakers in the commune broadcast announcements every morning, reminding everyone to prepare. Han couldn't escape that uneasy feeling either. This year, storms had come one after another, and her coffee farm had been heavily damaged. Many ripe red coffee cherries, not yet fully harvested, had already fallen to the ground due to earlier winds. Her income, already unstable, had now become even more uncertain. She sat on her front porch looking up at the gray sky. A faint bluish light spread above, wind scraping coldly along her cheeks, a bad sign. I wonder how strong this storm will be, Han murmured, gently gripping her cup of cold tea. Her heart grew heavier. If the storm was strong, her entire harvest could be lost. The villagers would once again face shortages. And she, with only the hands of a single mother, would she have the strength to shoulder it all? That evening she quickly tidied up the front yard, collecting the remaining bags of coffee. The wind was picking up now, roaring across the hills, making the trees sway violently. Eri, her young son, clung tightly to her, his round eyes full of fear. "Mom, will the storm blow our house away?" Han crouched down, stroking his head. "No, sweetheart. I'm here. We'll get through this together." Her voice was gentle, but her heart was unsettled. She tried to stay calm, secured more planks to the windows, tied down the tarps on the roof. Under the strikes of her hammer, the small house became a fortress, bracing for the storm. As night deepened, a flash of light appeared, the beam of a motorcycle stopping at the gate. Surprised, Han stepped outside. It was Tan. His raincoat still soaked, his face full of concern. "Are you all right? I heard the storm will be strong, so I came to check on you." That moment warmed Han's heart, if only a little, as the violent storm drew near. All day long, the wind howled in waves, rain lashed against the tin roof, clattering as if trying to rip the sky apart. The coffee trees in the yard bent low, their leaves slashing against each other, creating a harsh rustle like cries swallowed by the storm. Han huddled inside the small house, anxiety tightening her chest. She had reinforced the doors earlier, stacking wood and sandbags at the entrance, but the wind still slipped through the cracks, icy and relentless. Every time the wind slammed against the door, she flinched, her hand instinctively clutching her shirt. Inside, the yellow light flickered with each gust. Eri hugged her leg, his eyes wide, unable to hide his fear. "Mom, the storm. It's so loud." Han bent down, gently rubbing his back. "It's okay. I'm here. The doors are closed, we'll be safe." She spoke calmly, yet her heart churned. Outside, the sounds grew more violent. Metal sheets clanging, branches snapping, wind screaming like someone crying outside the door. Suddenly, the whole house shuddered, as if being pushed sideways. Panicking, Han stood and rushed to the window. One latch had broken, wind hammered against it, rain spraying into the room. She grabbed a rope and forced the window shut. The wind was so strong that her hands trembled, nearly thrown back. After several minutes of struggling, the window finally held. Han exhaled, sweat beading on her forehead though the air was freezing. She returned, hugging Eri tightly. "It's okay now, sweetie. Mommy fixed it." The boy buried his face against her chest, his breath trembling. Han stared into the pitch-black storm outside, silently praying for it to pass soon, wishing that at dawn, when she opened the door, the coffee farm would still be there, the house still standing, and everyone in the village safe. Outside, the rain and wind still roared. Inside, Han held Eri close, trying to remain calm. The tin roof rattled violently with every strike of the wind, terrifying. Elsewhere in the village, Tan couldn't rest. He kept seeing Han's worried face before the storm arrived. Now, imagining her and the child alone in that fragile hilltop house, his heart burned. He grabbed his phone and immediately dialed, but the screen only read, "No signal." He tried again, once, twice, 5 times. Still nothing. Only the hollow tone of failure. "Han, please pick up." His voice grew hoarse. Strong winds battered the walls, rattling the windows. A sense of dread rose inside him. He checked the news. The storm was hitting inland, winds reaching levels 12 to 13. Roads were blocked. Many areas had lost power and cell service. Ton took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but his fists tightened until they turned white. He pictured Han struggling alone in the storm, the little boy trembling in fear, while he could do nothing but wait. "No, I have to go." He threw on his raincoat, grabbed a flashlight, rope, and a few supplies. A neighbor saw him and hurried over. "It's still dangerous outside. The road up the hill isn't safe. You can't go now." But Ton simply replied, "There's someone there. I have to protect." With that, he put on his helmet and sped into the blinding rain. His motorcycle cut through the darkness, its headlight a lone beam against the raging wind. Yet he pressed on, toward the small house where Han and Eri curled together, waiting for the storm to pass. Because in the moment when the storm rages the strongest, that's when people finally realize who truly matters to them. The howling wind grew more and more violent. Han's fragile house began to shake as if it were about to be lifted off the ground. The tin roof rattled loudly. Each blast of wind pried the sheets upward, slamming them against one another with sharp metallic clanks. A corner of the roof had already been torn off. Rainwater poured in, streaming across the cold floor. Han turned pale. She looked around. The wooden support beams were leaning dangerously. The old, weathered walls had begun to crack, swaying with every gust. The house wouldn't hold much longer. Tom trembled as he hugged his mother tightly, tears rolling down his cheeks. "Mom, I'm scared." Han clutched him close, shielding his head. "It's okay. I'm here. I'm here." But her voice was clearly shaking. Her heart pounded painfully in her chest. A loud crack thundered outside. A large branch snapped and struck the back of the house. A huge portion of the roof caved in, wind and rain slashing in like icy blades. Startled, Han pulled Tom into a corner. "Oh my God!" Curtains whipped wildly, furniture toppled. The front door vibrated violently, threatening to rip off its hinges. Han swallowed hard, trying to remain calm. She rushed forward to reinforce the door, but the wind was too strong. Rain slapped her face like needles, her hair tangled, her clothes soaking through. "No, this won't hold." She turned and grabbed her son, breathing heavily. "Tom, hold on to Mommy. Don't let go." The boy buried his face in her chest, sobbing. The house jolted again, tipping to one side. Objects crashed to the floor, shattering. Han shut her eyes, tightening her arms around Tom, praying the roof wouldn't collapse. Outside, the storm roared as if wanting to swallow everything whole. Darkness, rain, and wind blended into a raging chaos. Far away, Ton was still speeding through the storm, completely unaware that Han and little Tom were trapped, standing only a step away from danger. Suddenly, boom! A deafening explosion echoed like a strike from the heavens. The whole house shook violently as a massive section at the back caved in. Tin sheets, beams, and rubble came crashing down in a twisted heap. Wind and rain surged inward, threatening to sweep everything away. Han screamed, "Move!" By instinct, she grabbed Tom and rolled aside. A sheet of tin sliced downward, hitting the floor just inches from where they stood moments earlier. The metal clanged sharply against the tiles, water spraying everywhere. A heavy support beam slammed down, blocking the rear door. Their only exit was now sealed shut. Han's face drained of color. Rain mixed with sawdust sprayed across the room. Her vision blurred. All she could hear was wind screaming and objects crashing. Tom wailed in panic. "Mom! I'm scared." Han hugged him tightly, her whole body trembling. "It's okay. I'm here. Mommy's here." But fear choked her. Half the roof was gone, walls tilted and ready to fall. Water flooded across the floor, icy cold rising to their ankles. She scanned the room for a way out. There was only a small gap near the kitchen, where the roof hadn't fully collapsed. But the wind was so strong, walking toward it felt impossible. Every time the wind struck, the remaining roof groaned, creaking as if it could fall at any moment. We have to get out," Han whispered, but her legs were weak. Just then a large board crashed down, blocking their path and dividing the room. Han tried pushing it, but it wouldn't budge. Panicking, she pulled her son into a corner, pressing tightly against the sturdiest wall left. Cold wind whipped through the cracks, stinging their skin. Help, help! Her faint voice vanished into the storm. No one could hear. Only the roaring rain, and the tin roof bellowing like a wounded beast. Han trembled uncontrollably, her arms tightening around her child, tears mixing with rain. She knew, if the remaining roof fell, they wouldn't survive. Far away, through the blinding curtain of rain, Tan continued racing toward the house. The road was slippery, wind tossed his body sideways, but he gritted his teeth and pushed on. He could feel it. Han was in danger, and with every passing second, the lives of the mother and child were pushed closer to the edge, threatened by the furious storm. Outside, the wind howled as though it wanted to swallow the mountains whole. The remaining section of the roof shook violently, creaking, cracking, as if warning that the end was near. Han tightened her arms around Tom. Rain whipped against their faces, icy cold cutting through their skin, making both of them shiver uncontrollably. Suddenly, a sharp explosive crack echoed from the roof frame. Crack! The main horizontal beam snapped in half. The roof lurched. Oh God! Han could only scream as she pulled Tom tightly against the wall. An entire section of the roof crashed down in front of them, dirt and debris bursting into the air. Twisted pieces of tin curled like saw-toothed blades. Had they been just half a step closer, they might have been crushed instantly. Panicking, Tom clung to his mother's neck, sobbing, "Mom, don't leave me." Tears streamed down Han's cheeks as she held him. "Mom won't leave you. I'll protect you always." But her voice was strained. Terror filled her eyes. Only a small portion of the house remained standing. Water flooded up to their ankles, the wind slicing at exposed skin. Every sound around them felt like a threat. Just one stronger gust and the entire house would collapse. Suddenly, a series of loud bangs at the front door. Knock! 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 The violent knocking mixed with the storm. Hun! Hun! Open up! It's me, Tan. Tana's voice strained against the storm outside. But the door was jammed by a fallen support beam. It could not be opened. Han burst into tears. Tan! Help us! The house is about to collapse. Get back! Stand far away. I'm breaking in. Without waiting, Tan rammed his shoulder against the door. Bang! The frame groaned but didn't budge. He stepped back, gathering strength. Bang! The door shook hard. The fallen beam shifted slightly. Inside, the roof above Han crackled ominously. Tom! Hold on. Move to the other wall. Han yelled, grabbing him and ducking into the only sturdy corner. In that same moment, crash! Another section of the roof collapsed. Tin sheets smashed down exactly where they had been standing, shattering furniture into splinters. Han froze in horror, a cold sweat sliding down her spine. Outside, Tan screamed desperately. Hun! Hun! Answer me. We're here. Left corner. Please help us. Hurry. Without hesitation, Tan grabbed a thick wooden plank and hurled himself at the door. The impact was so strong that the door frame shattered. Splinters and metal pieces flying. Wind blasted in, flinging objects everywhere. He rushed inside, eyes widening at the devastation. The roof was almost gone. Water covered the floor. The walls were tilting, about to collapse. Han was clutching Tom, trembling, lips turning purple. Follow me. Tan shouted, running to shield them both. But, wham! A huge tree outside snapped and crashed onto the roof, shaking the ground. The wall split apart. Wood and debris tilted toward them. Han screamed. Tom wailed. Tan threw himself over the two of them. Boom! Everything went dark. Boom! The beam of the roof caved in right where they stood. Dirt exploded upward, metal clanged fiercely. The flickering light went out, leaving only suffocating blackness. Han felt her body being pressed into the floor. A large wooden beam had fallen in front of them, miraculously creating a narrow pocket of space, just enough to keep her, Tom, and Tan from being crushed. Dust and damp earth filled the air, burning their noses. Han coughed violently. Tom! Tom! She cried desperately. Mom, I'm here. Tom's trembling voice answered from the dark, choked with fear. He was still in her arms, face soaking with rain and tears. Han sobbed in relief. "Tan, are you okay?" Beside her, Tana's body was still covering them. He stirred weakly, voice strained. "I'm fine, not hit too badly." But his breathing was ragged. He had been slammed hard in the shoulder and back, pain searing through him as sweat and rain mixed down his cheek. There was no time. The house continued to tilt. The constant cracking sounds warned that it could collapse completely any second. Bracing himself, Tan rasped, "We have to get out now." Han frantically scanned the darkness. No light, except a faint glow in the far left corner. A narrow gap leading outside, blocked by twisted tin. There's an opening." She pointed. Tan pushed himself up, but his injured shoulder gave out and he nearly fell. Gritting her teeth, Han tried to shove the sheet of tin aside. She threw all her strength into it, but it didn't move. It was stuck beneath a heavy wooden beam. Wind screamed through the broken walls, roaring like a beast. Rain poured down from the gaps, water rising from their ankles to their shins. If they didn't escape soon, they would drown or be buried alive. Through the pain, Tan crawled to her. "Let me." He wedged his shoulder against the tin and strained, letting out a roar as he forced it upward. The metal shifted slightly. Han quickly braced it from below. Together they pushed. Scrape. At last, the opening was wide enough for one person. "Han, take Tom out first." Tan gasped, lips pale. Han gathered Tom, hunched low, and squeezed through the narrow space. The sharp tin edge sliced her arm, drawing blood. But she didn't stop. Outside, the wind struck her so hard she nearly fell. Rain battered her like stabbing needles. She set Tom down beside her, holding him tight. She turned back. Tan was still struggling to hold up the tin as he tried to squeeze through. Suddenly, a cracking sound echoed from inside. Another beam was about to break. "Tan! Hurry!" Han screamed, voice tearing. Tan crawled forward, but the tin sheet above him was jerked by the wind, collapsing partly behind his back. The gap shrank, only big enough for one person. Tom sobbed, "Uncle Tan, please hurry." Gritting his teeth, Tan pushed against the tin, but it was impossibly heavy. His injured shoulder weakened. The wind shrieked harder. The house was seconds from total collapse. Han stared at him, eyes wide, rain mixing with her tears. "Tan, crawl out. Now." He struggled. But then, boom! A section of the wall came crashing down toward Tan. A mass of bricks and timber thundered straight at him. The brick wall collapsed with terrifying speed. "Tan!" Han screamed. In a split-second struggle between life and death, Tan clenched his teeth and hurled himself toward the narrow opening. Crash! Bricks slammed down right behind him. One large chunk struck his left shoulder, forcing a cry from his throat. "Ah!" He slid out from the collapsing rubble, tumbling onto the muddy ground outside. A heartbeat later, the rest of the wall crashed down, sealing the way he just escaped. Had he been even half a second slower, he would have been buried alive. Han rushed over, pulling Tan close. "Tan, are you hurt?" "Tan!" Wind whipped wildly, rain poured down in sheets. Thunder roared like it was tearing the sky apart. Tom clung to his mother's leg, sobbing. "Uncle Tan, don't die." Tan forced his head up, gasping. His left shoulder was drenched in blood, the arm barely moving. "I'm alive." He tried to smile, but his lips were pale. With trembling hands, Han pressed against his shoulder to stop the bleeding. But rain kept washing the blood away, staining the ground red. "Let me see." Tan tried to push himself up, but the moment he lifted his knee, his leg buckled. He nearly collapsed. Han caught him. "No, you're injured." Tan gritted his teeth. "We can't stop. The house is coming down. We have to move." They had barely taken a few steps away when, boom! The rest of the house collapsed, swallowed in dust and roaring debris. Splintered wood, twisted metal, and rubble exploded outward. The house, where mother and child once sheltered, was now nothing more than ruins. Tom hiccuped, crying, "Our house!" Han hugged him tightly, eyes burning. But there was no time to mourn. The storm kept raging without mercy. Tom looked at the wreckage. pain flickering through his gaze. But he immediately turned to them. "Come, we need shelter." He staggered to his feet, clutching his left shoulder. Blood kept trickling with every step. Han cried out, "You're hurt badly. Let me support you." Tom shook his head, panting. "I can still walk." "You carry Tom. Stay close." But after only a few steps, his body faltered. Han caught him, voice breaking. "Tom, don't push yourself. I'll help you." Tom looked at her, eyes resolute despite the pain. "I came to protect you and Tom. Even if I die, I'll get you to safety." The wind felt like it could knock them all over. Trees bent, branches snapped. Far away, lightning split the sky, illuminating a muddy road leading to the lower village. In the darkness, Han stared. That road was flooded, full of obstacles. Every step could mean danger, but staying meant certain doom. She squeezed Tom's hand, the other supporting Tom. "Let's go. I and Tom will stay with you. No matter what, we won't leave each other." Tom nodded weakly. 3 silhouettes, an injured man, a trembling woman, and a small child, rushed into the raging rain. Behind them, the destroyed house creaked, then faded into darkness. Ahead was a perilous path filled with unknown dangers. Floodwater surged violently, roaring as if trying to devour the hillside. The earthen ledge where the 3 huddled began to crumble, soil sliding away beneath them. In the flickering beam of a rescue flashlight through the rain, 3 to 4 figures in professional rain gear pushed against the current, ropes and rescue hooks in hand. "Over there. I see them," one shouted. "Hold on. We're coming." Hearing those words, Tom nearly collapsed in relief, but the rushing water shoved at him, and pain in his wounded shoulder nearly stopped his breath. Han held Tom tight, her small frame shielding him. Her reddened eyes trembled, but she remained standing. One rescuer slid down the slope and shouted over the raging water, "We have to pull you out one by one. The slope's collapsing. We need to move now." Han's face went pale. She clutched Tom tight. "Please, save my son first." The rescuer nodded sharply. "Send the boy over." Han hugged Tom and pushed him forward. A rescuer caught him firmly, yelling, "Hold on to me." Tom screamed, reaching for his mother. "Mom. Moom." Tears streamed down Han's face as she shouted through the storm. "Tom. Look at me. I'm right here. Go with him. Hurry." The floodwater surged, nearly ripping him from the rescuer's grip. But the man held tight, tying a rope around the boy's waist. Rescuers on the other side pulled, carrying Tom through the torrent. Watching her son get farther away, Han's chest tightened painfully, but before relief could reach her, crack! The dirt beneath them slid, dropping in a large chunk. Soil and rocks cascaded into the flood. Tom stumbled, nearly swept away, but caught a tree root just in time. The remaining rescuer shouted, "Next! Hurry!" Tom turned toward Han, trying to tell her to go first, but she shook her head wildly. "No! You're hurt. You go first." Tom roared over the storm. "I'm a man. You're stronger right now. Listen to me." Han bit her lip, hands trembling. She wanted to argue, but then saw his bleeding shoulder, his body shaking from exhaustion. Agony twisted through her eyes. "Go. You have to live." Tom forced a weak smile. "I promise. I'll live, so I can protect you both." The rescuers didn't wait. They wrapped the rope around his torso. 2 others pulled from above. Gritting his teeth, Tom pushed out of the eroding ledge, the flood battering him, but the rope kept him inching upward. Just then, whoosh! A huge branch swept by the current, slammed toward him. "Look out!" A rescuer yelled. The branch smashed into his side, knocking him off balance. He lost his grip. "Tom!" Han screamed. Luckily, the rope caught him, but he spun through the raging water, slamming into the muddy bank, pain ripping through his left shoulder, nearly knocking him out. The rescuers braced themselves, muscles bulging as they pulled with all their strength. Scrape! At last, they dragged Tom onto solid ground. He lay still, barely moving, his shoulder soaked in blood, eyes half shut. "Tom! Tom!" Han cried from below. But the water kept rising. Half the ledge where she stood had already collapsed. She alone, facing the raging torrent. A rescuer tossed a rope down. You! Grab the rope. Now! Han reached, but the water shoved her to her knees. The ground beneath her softened. If she hesitated even seconds, she'd be swept away. The rescuer shouted, "Grab it! Now or never!" Han steeled herself, stretching her arm toward the rope. At that instant, the ledge cracked wide, mud sliding away. Han lost her balance and fell. Han, even weakened, Tana's scream cut through the storm.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Hy vọng rằng những video của mình sẽ mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người mỗi khi xem. Và mình cũng chúc mọi người có một ngày mới vui vẻ và hạnh phúc. Video hôm nay kể về câu chuyện của người mẹ đơn thân Diệu Hân. Sau cơn bão số 13 ập tới thì ảnh hưởng rất nặng nề và Hân đã bị cuốn trong dòng nước. Liệu rằng Hân sẽ thoát được dòng nước lũ hay không? Và đội cứu hộ có kịp thời cứu Hân thoát khỏi hay không thì mời mọi người đón xem ở video tiếp theo. Và để mong rằng Hân không gặp tai nạn, mọi người nhớ để lại một lời bình luận ở dưới phần nhận xét. Và mình sẽ làm video tiếp theo cho mọi người vào ngày mai. Hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ mình trong thời gian sắp tới. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nhé.